Are we live? Hold on, let me just check. Can someone just tell me if we're live? Because this is super weird today. Everything in every single way possible has acted up for the last 20 minutes, and I am seriously starting to doubt myself now. This is so weird.
Are we live?
I think we're live. This is good enough. Let's just get started. Welcome back, internet. I'm live again. Your favorite UI UX design and all things freelance YouTube person. I think that's what I would want to call myself. In all seriousness, welcome back. Today we're going to talk about color palette mistakes and the 50 color palettes the pros don't want you to know about, and you just have to see them before they get everywhere because they're completely free. Let's get started. Let's talk about everything that needs to get talked about. Today we're talking about my 50 secret color palettes that we launched in this Holi, and this is the second time we're talking about them once again. I am so sick and tired of, and please don't consider this UI when I'm talking about this, I am so sick and tired of seeing all of these weird sites on the internet where everything is right but the color palettes, and there is just so much of these now because I'm getting really active on Twitter again, and it's that time of the year when every single UI you see has all of the things almost right, and the one thing that gets my goat is the colors aren't there. So today we're going to take 50 color palettes that we don't get to see, 50 combinations that we don't get to see often. Yes, I've made these, and you can get them for yourself completely for free from my website petersrivastava.com, link in the live chat and description, so hopefully you can find it. And we're going to talk about my 50 favorite color palettes and build out 3 different actual UI designs to show you how you would put these into your daily use and how it could really change your design game. And we're also going to talk about no Windows, I don't want to restart. Can I just pick a time? Give me a moment. Let's just restart tomorrow and we'll kick the can down the road. Anyways, let's get started. Today we're talking about 50 color palettes that are going to get really relevant, really popular in the coming future because we've seen so many color palettes and them just being all over the place and no one knowing what to actually do with them. So we're going to see how to make a good color palette, how to use a good color palette in actual real life usage. Let's get started. The color palettes that I want to talk about today are 5. Specifically these 5, or actually we might talk about 6, so that's also a bonus surprise for you. The first color palette that I'm super duper happy to talk about is Emma Write-Down. This is the classic balance between having a black and a white and then maybe having a teal and a yellow and a pink. And the reason I want to talk about this first and actually start building something out with this first is because this in itself uses so many different colors that you don't see used often, and many times there are 2 different things that come to people's minds when they think about color palettes and how to use them. They can't easily incorporate many different colors, 3 different colors, without panicking or creating the wrong color combination, and I'm going to show you how you could be doing that in just a bit. Or B, and this happens way more often, you'll have a color palette and you will feel the urgency to use every single color in that color palette and not use that as a starting point. At some point you can bring in a color palette and put it in all of the different places, use it as a placeholder, but sometimes it becomes really important to use the color palette, whatever that might be, as a starting point and start getting it into a brand's color scheme without overwhelming the brand itself. So let me just talk about what I mean by that. This is the UI that we're building today. Yes, I know it doesn't have the green, the teal that we were so proud of, but the reason we're building out this today is because we have taken as the basis of today's first UI some of the colors that were right here inside of this color palettes that make a really good gradient and would get ignored. The gradient that gets made, the pattern that gets made would get really easily ignored just because everyone is so busy focusing on the greens and getting that segment right. So with that said, let's get started. The very first thing you're going to do is get for yourself this amazing collection of color palettes from veerashrivastava.com. You can find the link in the live chat and also in the description. Once that is done, you will find this color palette right about here. So this is the second color palette from the top. Some of these fonts are red and they are there for a reason. As I'm saying this, I'm realizing the camera today is acting up for some reason and I look really yellow and really jaundiced. Don't worry, that is not the case, I hope. Although it might be. If it is not something that has come into my knowledge. With that said, let's just copy this color palette and start building out something real. So the way you're going to do this is you're going to go over to Figma. If you don't yet have it, go ahead and download Figma, click on plus and click on a new design file. So when that happens, you're just going to paste over your color palette and then we're going to see how you can use these colors and get started with something that does not exactly look like it's derived from the color palette, but gets to work with all of the gradients and all of the different things that get made when you get something like this inside. So with that said, let's just create an actual frame. So the thing that we're creating today is this UI, and the reason it's so special is because it is a hero section, a pricing section in fact, and the only thing it runs on is getting a couple of colors, using them as starting points. I'm pretty sure the hex codes at this point aren't exactly the ones we started with, but the colors that are present are just really well and just fit the theme and fit the vibe and work with this occasion, and they're just perfect for this use case. You don't need to have every single color inside of a color palette used in your UIs just for things to make sense. So this is what we're designing. This is what we're designing it with. This is where we're starting, and so we're just going to get started. And today is also a very special day because we're going to talk about some really cool new Figma features that landed that we haven't ever looked at on live stream before, because the last time we were live these features weren't really present. So we're just going to click on plus, the frame at the bottom. Figma Sites is actually quite nice. People do have their concerns with it, but I will have my word on it as well soon. Let's just create a very simple UI and let's just start talking about how you would use this as the basis for a brand. So I also want to talk about the fact that your color schemes, your brand guidelines, your colors, your fonts always come before you talk about your actual UI. So that has to be a good starting point as well. The color scheme that we're using for this is going to be our yellow to pink gradient, and the orange gets sort of picked up in the middle. This is the frame that we're using for this UI, and then inside of this frame is going to be an even smaller frame that talks about your actual UI. So this is going to be located inside of it. The reason we're using a frame like this is because it provides easier presentations if you're circulating these or giving them to clients or doing anything in those regards. So let's just get started. Have you guys actually used the gradient feature in Figma now? It's so different and I love it. Let me just talk about that for a bit. So this is our background which we're using for this UI, and the way we're going to build this is we're going to take this background, go to gradients over here, and we are going to run a top to bottom gradient. Obviously the top color is going to be yellow, which is exactly the yellow that was on here at the top, and then the pink is going to be also taken from the color palette, and then we're going to try to bring in some noise, bring these colors to be just a little bit lighter, and I'm going to show you how we do that as well. So the first thing you remember when you're building with a color palette is don't overcomplicate it. Don't feel the need to use these exact hex codes. Hex codes is the exact same shade of that color, and sometimes people feel the need to be using that exact same hex code, and unless it's a part of a challenge, I don't think you should run after hex codes and getting them exactly right in the beginning. In the beginning, it's fine if you add a fill, make it white, and just experiment around making this lighter or darker. So Figma lets you add fills and you can have those be visible with a 20% opacity, and you can try out whether a lighter or a darker version will work well with it. The two features that I've been dying to talk about on this channel since eternity are noise and texture, which have recently been introduced in Config 2025. Who watched? I did. This was insane. Let's add the special effects that I'm talking about today, which are texture and noise. So I want to start with noise just because it was so fun. You can now add this weird gray TV looking noise now, and I know this used to be visible on the old time TVs, and it's back again. It used to be a thing you could only achieve through things like Photoshop, and now we have that in Figma, which is nice. You can also add texture, which is just making things more interesting. You can experiment around with the sizes and the radiuses, and the reason it's just getting so much more attention now is people have struggled for years and years and years just for the ability to be able to make textures and noises in Photoshop. We left Figma for a really long time just so we could have these two features, and Figma is just monopolizing on absolutely everything over here, and I'm all for it. We can change this to be duotone noises, where it allows you to have two different colors and you can make noises with those colors. I think mono noise is fine for me. You can change this to be white or gray or whatever color you choose for it to have, and I feel like this is a really good stopping point. Again, the issue with today's video, the goal with today's video is not to have you get all up in your head about using the right hex code, but have you figure out these color palettes are great starting points, great balance points, which you can take and immediately build out something very tangible with. So this is the gradient that we're using in the background, and we're going to get this this frame out here. Now, something that is just quite recent in Figma and I have to warn you about is, don't go about making an image like this using texture and noise and then getting your frame inside of it and just using it like that, because that distorts the frame's edges as well and it will distort the text and everything. So this is going to be quite jarring if you're new to this. You're going to go ahead, take this frame, export it as an image, and yes, I'm going to export it and you're going to see all of my downloads, one of which might be my own photo, which is insane and weird and I don't know what else. And you're going to get this image back again in Figma, this time not as a frame but as an image, because when you have an actual frame, it lets you distort everything that goes on inside. Check it out, all of this text is as distorted as the pattern in front of it, but when you just get it out and you use this as an image, as a PNG, as opposed to the texture that it is, life becomes easier. So I'm just going to get this off on another side of the frame, which I absolutely don't want you to see. Wow, I should just shift myself on the other corner now, because boy am I hogging up the view. Today's camera is acting insanely, and I used to be able to change these things with shortcuts, but apparently we're going back in evolution. This is the image that we just exported. I'm going to get this out right here on the screen. You can make this bigger or smaller if you need to. Generally, you don't have to worry about pixelation as much when you're working with like complicated patterns like noise and all of the textures and crazy stuff, but this still remains a very, very relevant effect. You can get a frame and now start designing, and I feel like it's at this point you will start to see the true magic of the color palette that we used. This color palette is taking a subset from Emma Brighttown from my from my color palettes collection, and this background was made first so that now we have a good starting point. Every single color other than black and white that I use for this UI, sorry teal, you are left out, every single color that I use for this UI is only going to be taken from the gradient that gets made in the background, not from any color from outside. And the main goal with today's video is to show you how you can take a couple of colors, make a gradient, make something, and work inside of this range now, because most of the time complicated bad things start to happen when designers decide they can use any color they want in the world, and that's not the case. Generally it'll lead to a lot of tragedy and chaos. So just stick with this gradient now that we've made it. Rule number 1. And now we're going to start making our actual pricing page. I'm not too worried about the borders, although I should be. You can adjust these as you want to, because you can also remove the width and height constraints now, and this is now a very reusable pattern wherever you want it to be reused. Let me just crop this out just so you can see what I'm talking about. This is very reusable in terms of sizing. I'm just going to let it stay just the way it is, let things overflow just for a little while, and start designing the pricing section. So we're going to start with the header, obviously. Cloudify is the name of our brand, and here's why things are very, very interesting. Because we're using these colors, because we're using these combos, we can't even go outside of them for the logo, which is fortunate because we didn't have a logo or any brief from a client for this example UI. So you have to now stick with every single color and every single choice being made from inside of this gradient. This gradient, for its biggest purpose, is your brand guide, and the one thing that's going to keep you anchored and not confused. So that's the only goal we have for the gradient, and also the fact that it looks quite nice. Now we're going to change the color of this logo, and you could either take the exact pink and the exact yellow that we had from the top, which is fine, but you could take these colors in the middle as well, and I'm going to stick with the color from the middle, which actually uses a lot of orange and pink. You can change around the hues, you can decide if a certain color just works slightly better, but almost in all cases it's good to stick with the colors that we started with. Now that we have this title in front of us, we also need a beautiful logo with us, and you can get a logo from any place you want. You can make your own logo. I'm going to make a simple logo today. This is a really nice kite that we've made with the vector tool. So I'm just going to show you how you make a kite like this. You're just going to make a simple kite. It's super simple. I have no idea why I'm explaining this even. Get the pen tool from the bottom, make this weird diamond, get this guy down here. You're just going to make the simplest kite today. This isn't even very complicated, and the shape really does not matter at this point. And you're just going to get this out and create like the simplest shape in the whole world. Once this is done, you're going to make sure the edges of the kite are physically extending out, because that was another really important goal. Stick with me over here. We're going to end up with a beautiful logo, even though it does not look like it. This is our lines now. If your line that you're making isn't perfect, make it perfect. This is a logo. You'll only work on it once. And it's really important you get it right. You're going to go over to the advanced stroke settings, make sure your joints are all circular, make sure all of your endpoints are rounded, because that is a very important part of this whole process. Make sure this pink is very, very pink. Make this guy much, much smaller. Bring this next to our Cloudify logo. You can also add a fill, and I'm using a color that is used from inside of this gradient. Never go outside of this gradient once you've made this gradient, because it's our ultimate Lord and Savior now. It just is. This is our logo. This is what we're starting with. The next thing we're making is the title bar, is the header, and it's going to have a couple of drop down options. Not very complicated, very, very simple stuff. Home, features, pricing, contract. While I'm telling you about this, did you guys know I started a podcast? I had been meaning to on UI UX design, and I ended up finally doing it. So last month was when I started it, and it has a singular episode now. We have worked on others, and more episodes are eventually coming. It's called the Veera Shrivastava Show. You can search it on YouTube if you want, and also all of the places you could find your podcasts. I do think there is a lot of stuff happening on that end, and the only reason I started it so focused on UI UX design, I initially planned on doing a very, very techie theme to the whole thing, because I knew I wanted a podcast from time immemorial. But the reason we started with a very UI designy theme is because I'm constantly yappering about UI design all the time. Yappering, is that even a word? I have no idea at this point. But I've been talking about UI UX design for a really long time, and that makes you know stuff, and that makes you want to blab, and it's actually very nice, very genuine, very useful information that I just don't get to squeeze into these live streams and also the many, many videos on this channel. So that's something you do not want to miss out on. We're just going to have this be a very, very simple downward arrow B in the bottom. I'm trying my best to make it as simple as possible. Yes, you could use something like Iconify to make a very complicated version of this exact same guy with perfect ratios and perfect angles and all the perfect colors, but we're just simplifying things today, making them as simply as possible while sticking with the perfect color palettes. We are going to just press shift and select the both of them, Control G to group them together, copy and paste them over and over again. Change this to say features. At this point, I have no idea why I even have had two of these in the first place. I could have just done what I'm doing now, and then we're going to get two more, which would ultimately say pricing and contact. Let's just select the both of these and delete. Wow, I just deleted everything. If this were real life, I would have now blown off my own foot. Wow, I'm insane with all of this stuff. This is simply so weird, and it blows my mind all the damn time. You could increase or reduce the V angle, but it doesn't eventually matter. Everything that you have is in their own group, which is really, really nice because you want to center everything, align everything, make it all perfect. You can also add a simple layout, have all of the spacings and everything just worked out just right. The next thing I want to talk about is the download app, login, try it free, call to actions. This is just very, very simple stuff, but I'm still making it because you guys. So, download app, login, try it free. Let's just have this be in here very, very simply. I do believe I will also be crying once again because I might have to type these out twice, which seems to be the bane of my existence for some reason. We are making a complete pricing section just to be able to show you today what it is that ties a whole color palette together, why you would want to keep everything in a single color palette, why you would want to make it work. I'm just going to right click, frame this selection, add an auto layout, and I have a little bit of spacing to the right and left, to the top and bottom. You can also add a fill, which is going to be the exact same shade of pink that we started with. Remember, we're not using the teal. I am so sad that we're not using the teal because I love that shade in its own self. You can add a border radius if you want to, change the color to white if it feels more natural, which in this case I think it does, so we're just going to keep it there. Let's just place this right here, have a download app and a login option just present right next to each other, align them perfectly, have a line going on right there in the middle. And now we have something really, really simple at the very, very top. This is a simple header, nothing very complicated, nothing that's just super duper fancy, but it's good enough for you to get an example of how to tie everything into a single section. We're just going to select all of these things at once and group them together. And this is going to be your perfect header that you can just move around, work with if you want to. It's very, very reusable across formats, and it's just the simplest boilerplate thing you could come up with possibly. The next thing we're talking about is the grand title, the thing that draws everyone's attention: flexible pricing for every single business. So let's just get started with that. Flexible, I do believe we're going to have a really huge font size. Flexible pricing for every business. And we're just going to increase this up to a 64, which is, wow, so big. And you're also going to make this bolder because, of course, the bolder the better. It attracts a lot of attention of the right kind. I have tried to go down up to 56, but it just doesn't work. It never really does. We're going to align these perfectly in the center. Have another line go out here in the bottom, choose the plan that suits your needs. Let's just copy and paste this right here, and I'm just going to copy and paste this text now because, you know what, I'll just type it out. Choose the plan that suits your need. I don't sing very well, I believe, and yet I want to serenade you so that you keep on watching. Wow, look at me, the ultimate studio hack to keep everyone's attention around. This is so amazing. We can make this less bold because obviously this is a description text now, and we're also heading into the territory of making the text smaller, shorter, and more concise. It is our subheading, and it's quite important in the sense it delivers a lot of detail, but I feel like this is good enough the way it is. You can bring the font size down to 60 because it was just taking up a lot of space on the screen, freaking me out, completely weird. 28 is the size we're going to stick with, and shift this above, obviously. The next thing that we're doing, wow, Figma is just breaking off and distributing itself into a weird piece today. We're going to make one of these cards, make them reusable. Of course, the color that we're sticking with is a pink or an orange from this segment, but this is going to be a very reusable card, and we're going to reduce colors, change colors, work with a couple of really special things to make sure attention is brought not just to this section but also to this card. I know it seems like it just has these colors changed, but there is also one little detail that I haven't said on this video yet, which you will realize is so important for this pricing card to even work. So with that said, let's just create a simple card. Just, you're going to do the simplest thing now. I'm just creating this right here, get this out of the frame, add a fill, and you know what, why am I even making this over here? We're supposed to make this on the other screen. Let's just align this perfectly over here. Let's just make it a simple card, very, very simple stuff. Align it perfectly in the center, and I'm also going to add a stroke because do remember, we haven't really separated it off from the rest of the screen yet. I do want to shift things above, see what happens. And this seems good enough. This is absolutely good enough. We're going to align this perfectly in the center. And now we're going to have a couple of things be there all the time. The plan name, the plan price, and also a couple of details. So let me just get that over with really, really quickly. I am pretty sure Figma's new AI features will let us do a lot of this really easily, but I'm not trusting it completely yet, just because it's really janky as an assistant even right now. Like, you would have to wait for a really long time, and it gets really boring and really annoying. I do have some very, very, very serious thoughts on Figma's new AI features, and it's insane. It's insanity, and the way it's just taken over all of the different tools that we ever had used before. Let's just also get a price down here, because of course we want a price. I think a lot of the things that are going to be valid for the title bar are also going to be valid for our price, which in this case happens to be you know what, let me just get the both of these inside of this frame, because that is where they belong. $49, and we're going to get this into a really, really huge font size. Aman asks, what do you think UI designers are going to be replaced by AI? What do I think about UI designers being replaced by AI? Wow. I do think they're going to be the noblest of assistants we've ever had. I don't think we're going to be replaced anytime soon. And I say this as both a designer and developer, I would quickly start worrying about developers being replaced, but designers is definitely not in the cards right now, just because AI isn't there yet. And I understand how it gets freaky when it starts to develop entire things from scratch, but I can guarantee if I came on here in one of these videos and used something that was generated by AI, none of you would watch it, and I would not get views, and it would just be a complete disaster, just because the way AI is right now and the choices it's making are bad enough for me to still be confident in not only my skills but your skills too, and the demand for your skills. Like, AI driven things at this point aren't strong enough to replace us. They are strong enough to become good assistants. Check out what ChatGPT did to just about everyone. Do I use ChatGPT? Absolutely I do. Do you use ChatGPT? I have a feeling you do, because most people are now, and it's just becoming the nicest assistant we've ever had forever. Like, now I can ask it to just give me a message that I need to send to someone, and it just does, and you can just change a little bit of the details wherever you need to. Complete replacement is very, very difficult, and it's not as easy as it actually sounds. Human intervention, especially that of UI UX designers, is getting more important now that it's just easier to get the boilerplate stuff out of the way, and actual decisions have to be made. And this is where I think humans are really about to stay, and this is where the time for humans is going to begin. It's a good assistant, it's a great assistant, do not get me wrong, but the whole fear mongering about it's just going to take everyone's jobs and there are going to be no UI designers anymore, I would be more afraid that there aren't going to be programmers anymore, because programming and the stuff that happens after handoff is actually a little less creative and a little more kind of repeatable. And I say this as a both designer developer, so yes, I do put my own head on the line a lot, but it's the truth. You would much quicker start to worry about your position as a programmer than you would ever think about UI designers. It's just not that creative after handoff. start with plus, and you can change this back to black so it takes a little bit more attention. Pink is a weird shade that works with not only white but also black, but you kind of have to force it to work. So we're just going to select all of these, group them together, have this be aligned right here, and select the both of these. Align everything perfectly in the center of the frame. We do have a frame over here. You can just click on this button. Wow. You can just click on this button, make sure everything is aligned perfectly. The next thing we're going to do is have a line over here and have a couple of these guys. I do think there's just going to be a lot of really mind-blowing things that do happen. And I do think we're going to be blown away when these updates that do land now land. But I don't think everyone's just going to disappear so suddenly, because there is so many holes in the way things are working. It's just going to stay the way it is for a little while. You can go to Iconify, get the absolute finest icons, and we're going to search for a tick or a check over here. I hope it was check. You can just search from the top bar, which is a much more open option. Let's just get this one, align it perfectly, bring the sizing down. Let's just select this guy, wow, I cannot select things today. This is insane. Why am I acting so weird? Let's just bring the size down and obviously make sure everything aligns perfectly. And now we're just going to press shift, select the both of these together, group them together, copy and paste them once again, and copy and paste them a couple more times as well. And now you can automatically with auto layout adjust the spacing that is between them, and it just looks really good just in its own listed format. The things that we add is advanced analytics and a bunch of others. So I'm just going to bring the font weight down but not change the text, because who needs to change text nowadays? We're modern people who are extremely lazy. Advanced analytics, and obviously you can change all of the other text boxes as you need to. Alright, and now this is where the fun part comes in. We have actually made a card that is very reusable for this pricing section. Every single thing that we make on this page now is based off of this. So you're just going to copy and paste this, get this on both of the sides, because everything we're using now is just a similar version. For the cards that aren't primary, you're going to get rid of the stroke, change all the black. So the pure black color has a hex code of 0000. That's right here on the selection colors. You are going to change this to 111, and it's a rougher shade of gray, and you can even change it to 222, which is an even duller shade of gray. And we're going to change this to a very simple white, and then add a simple stroke. This is a much more dulled down version of this exact card, and it shows you how by removing color, sometimes you don't have to add a lot of color to get the right kind of urgency. Sometimes by removing color, you get attention to the plan, to the thing you want to get attention to, and that's your entire job. And now you can obviously change these details, but more importantly, you're just going to get these out here and just have the both of these be in the same exact spacing and the same exact positioning. So I'm just going to change a little bit of the text. This is going to say starter at 19 and enterprise at 99. So I'm just going to zoom in, change this text to say starter. Wow, I should have started with the left align. It was much simpler. Starter at 18. I should start using left align sooner. Wow, what am I doing? And also enterprise at 99. Let's bring this right here. Enterprise at 99. This is incredible. This is now the complete pricing section, and it's made entirely out of Emma Brighttown, which is one of the secret 50 color palettes that I don't share, but I'm sharing now just for the you special people watching, available completely for free from the website link in the live chat and description. The reason this is such a special UI and the reason we took the time to build out this entire thing is because this is the perfect testimony to prove to you You don't need to have the most amount of colors, the perfect color palette, or even use every single color from some magical color palette to get colors right. As long as you have a balanced color palette and start with it, you don't necessarily need to bring many colors from the insides, and it can still work. And you can exclude colors like teal, which can be beautiful but not relevant to your current framework. And obviously blacks, whites and grays, you'll always end up needing them, and you can change those colors around if need requires them to be. For example, in this card we changed it to a gray shade. Technically it's not a part of our color palette, but very very relevant to this use cases. And when you understand how we translate color palettes into actual scenarios, it's just going to change your mind and change the way you look at all of these things every single time. Alright, this is the first section that we've built. We're building 3 today. So the second and the third are actually much smaller but much more intriguing. The second thing that we're going to build today is this really really simple hero section concept. It's not even complete, but you see where this is coming from and you see how it was made, and it's so simplistic, like you could just keep on expanding with it. It's just that simple. Before I do that, I do want to talk about a couple of the other color palettes that we're not going to be building things out of today, but are very very interesting. This is Buenos Encanta. It was in my top 10 list. It has a really cool underwater, overwater theme. The nice blue greens and the sea theme works with anything that has anything to do with water, and even medical fields as a whole. And it's just super duper fun to use, and it's in the complete color palette 50 favorite color fonts pack. 50 favorite font. Why can't I say it correctly? This is so insane. 50 favorite color palettes pack available completely for free from my website, link in the live chat and description. The next one is called Harvest Day, and it is absolutely what you think it is. It has your earthy oranges and your greens, the lights, the darks, everything, and it talks about the whole harvest and green and very very natural grass and red, whatever red things come out of trees. Why am I so idiotic at this? But you get the point. This is very very natural, good for farmed themes and good for very very natural looking things. If you add this color palette to anything at all, you instantly give off natural word vibes. So it's just that easy to do. And also this last one is actually quite cute and quite playful and gets quite young. Pitch perfect, pink, orange, just the perfect color for combo. I used this for a very long time for my browser theme, and it was incredible. This is very positive. You can have this in Valentine's themed sites, stuff that's very wedding related, very very romantic, very very cute, works perfectly for many use cases. So those were the 3 honorable mentions. Had to mention them. They were my favorites, and yet we didn't get to use them, so sorry about that. This next one is Eclatant. I have no idea why the name is so complicated. I'm pretty sure everyone thinks that as well, unless you're French, in which case all rules stop applying. I guess I wanted to show the fact that I have good English skills and maybe inspire someone to take that up as a job. But I digress. This is funny. It is funny even if you don't get it right now. It's insanely funny. It is to me. Anyways, you're going to get the second color palette inside of your frame. Wow, what the hell did I export? Give me a moment. We'll get the color palette, and it's actually, hold on, let me show you where it's located, even if you're just new to the whole thing. You're going to find in the file that you download this present at the top, just right here. This is Buenos Encanta. I am just messing up horribly now. Eclatant. Why do I not know how to pronounce it? Look at that. I did not do the homework I needed to get into this live stream. Somebody shamed me on the internet. Anyways, this is what we're building today. It's actually a really really nice, very very serene color palette, and you can use this for so many purposes. The very first use case that comes to people's minds is, and I would want you to type this out, what do you think is the first use case for this color palette? It's usually going to be very water related, very natural, very very earthy sort of fresh tones, but we've used that, taken it and used it into a more finance related hero section. This is a hero section in progress for a finance landing page. It's not completely done, but it gives you a really really cool starting point. So with that said, let's just get started on the way it looks. So we're just going to create a simple frame. Very, very simple stuff. I know it looks weird and complicated, but let me just tell you, the devil is in the details. Everything that is awesome about this stems from these super duper colored cool shapes that we've built, and stems from the gradients that we got from these color palettes. These aren't color palettes, they are gradients that are just in action. So with that said, let's start making a couple of these shapes. So I want to start with this one because it looks quite cool, I will have to say. You're just going to zoom in and we're going to make the shapes first, just so we know where things are coming from. You're going to go over here, create a very simple ellipse, make this bigger. Wow, press shift and make it bigger so that width and height proportions don't distort. And as I'm saying that, I've already distorted both my width and height. I am quite stupid when it comes to preaching. Sweep is going to be 50%. You're just going to go over here and increase the sweep to be 50%. And you can use this to be the start point, to be the anchor. You can start at -90. Make everything very, very clear. Have another ellipse working right here. Select the both of these, group them together. And now we have a really nice looking shape. So we're just going to place this over here, and then we're going to work on the actual gradient that powers it. Now remember, there is always a little bit of an area when you're working with gradients to allow some colors from the other sides to be welcome over here, and I'm going to talk about the colors that we're making today. So this is going to be having a stroke of purple as well. This is the gradient that we're working with. It's a very, very simple linear gradient that works from the top to the bottom. And the way we're going to do this is change this to the top left side and have this be at the bottom right. I'm hoping I get the colors right. And then we're also going to talk about how to implement other colors inside of it, but that's going to come in a little bit. So the first thing we're going to do, get the first color. The second thing we're going to do, you guessed it, get the second color. And wow, I just put the both of them in the same place. I'm so weird with this stuff. Anyways, you can always make them. This second UI is all about taking colors not just from inside of the box, but getting really, really tiny differences from outside the box to make something that looks really, really nice. So we're just going to get this right here, go over to the top and have this be just a little bit darker. And it's right here on the curve. You're not going and changing this bar, you're just taking advantage of this entire curve and making something that looks really nice. You can also add another gradient, which I am going to do, and this is going to be transparent actually. So just going to change this to be a gradient as well, and this is going to be transparent from one end. So this is going to be the dark end. Do remember, the previous gradient is still in action, don't even think it's not. So you can just get a shade that's being used here, and then the second one is going to set the tone for the rest of our story. We are getting a little bit of the shade from another end, which is actually purple, and it's going to be inside of it. I'm not sure if it's the most visible thing, but it does very clearly exist. Sometimes that does not work, for like right now when Figma is giving me either a rendering error or I'm just not getting, you know what, let me just skip that. So the simplest way you can add an extra dash of color is to actually get another circle, and you don't have to worry about the widths and heights for this one. Change this to the purple that we were using. It's obviously not in the color palette, but it is closely from at the bottom. And then you're going to change this to be a radial gradient, and then change the darker version to be completely white, completely transparent. And this is now a very nice purple hue that you can use whenever you want to. So we're just going to take this, put this right here in the group. So this is our group, and I'm just going to bring this inside of the group. Make sure to change this group to a frame. I know I'm just complicating things now, but change this group to a frame and click on clip content. So it's just going to clip everything extra that we don't need. This is going to be the size, and this is going to be the height, which is just going to stay exactly the way it is. You can select both of these circles, choose to have them be at the very top of our frame, and then everything else can just get cut out. I know making these is really, really tricky and takes a lot of time, and even on live streams it can just mess up this quickly, but I'm trying to make this live as easily as possible. And you're just going to get these right here, and you can also use these circles as masks. So you're just going to copy and paste them once again and use them as masks. Make sure to have an extra copy using them as masks, and we're going to get this circle right here, bring it inside of the both of these, I'm just going to get rid of this one. Make sure to use it inside of the mask group. Have it be visible. I'm pretty sure the mask was created for the wrong guy. So we're just going to, hold on, let me just get started from the starting. We're just going to select the both of these, copy and paste. Wow, I just messed up again. We're going to select this one because this is where our purple circle is going to go, and then copy and paste it once again. Create a mask group from the top. Group it together so that you have a simple group now, and now you're going to have a simple circle inside of this frame which doesn't go outside of this frame at all. And since we added clip content to the exact frame, this doesn't even go outside on an end where the circle itself ends. So you're just going to have this be present right here, and then you can use a radial gradient for the purple. You could have done it either ways. The way we were doing was also completely fine, but we ended up not doing that, and this is going to be very transparent. In fact, you can even bring this down here and have it be giving nice shades to the entire circle. And you can change the shape. It doesn't really have to be circular even. It just can change to be whatever it needs to be at any point. And you can even make this a little bit bigger, have this fit your entire themes. This can also be a really light version of the color that we were using. Wow, I just managed to mess that up as well. Anyways, with that said, this is sort of how we're doing the whole really cool color trick, and I hope adding these makes a lot of sense. Anyways, this is our version of expanding the circle, bringing this down here, and it does take a lot of time and it is quite tricky, but this is one of the shapes that we've built out. And you can keep on refining these, and they'll keep on getting better and better. But now I want to talk about my secret sauce to getting anything that you've made it all sense. Have an effect. Change this effect to be texture. Noise. And this is going to be really weird and noisy, and just have a lot of stroke in it. So we're just going to change this to white because we want white noise. We don't want dark shaded noise, if that makes sense. And this is what just adds the chef's kiss on absolutely anything you build out. It doesn't matter what you're building as long as you have a little bit of noise, and it's going to look like an elite shape. It just is. You don't have to worry about impressing anyone ever again. And the next shape we're building out is this super duper cool vector. So you can obviously go over here to the top. One element that I did forget is my mistake, inner shadow. You can add this from the top, change this to be white, and just follow the steps that we're following. Elevate it to be whatever you want it to be. Add a little bit of a blur, and check it out. This actually looks quite nice and rounded and has a little bit of a curve, a really subtle one. You may not end up noticing it after all, but it is quite nice, and it just works really well. The next shape that we're making is this one. So you're just going to trace it out using simple vector. You can just click on the pen tool if you want to, and then create a very simple, a very simple flower. You're going to go over here and change this into a very simple petal. It doesn't have to be perfect. You can work with it and experiment around with it to see what works. Once you're done with one of them, you're going to double click, select the actual vector, and this is where the magic actually starts to happen. You're going to copy and paste this once again. Select this vector, Control A, Control C, Control V, and then you're going to use your arrow keys because that is unfortunately one of the only ways to move these guys around, and have this move around wherever you want it to move around. Let's just have this be right here, and you can draw these if you want to as well. So I'm just not going to do the whole drag and drop thing anymore because it does take a lot of time, even if it turns out to be very smooth and very simple and very nice looking. You're just going to change this to a really simple, nice flower as a shape, and have that work as you'd want it to. Check it out, this actually looks quite incredible. And now I'm just going to add a fill, and this fill is going to be another gradient. So I'm just going to copy and paste this flower back in our color palette, and we're going to once again get colors from this exact color palette, but this time we're going to use this, and then have a black bee in the background, and I'm going to show you what I mean by that in just a bit. So this is going to be a gradient. Once again, have this be from the top to the bottom. We're going to change this to be a green, and then change the color at the bottom to be a blue. Very, very subtle stuff, not even noticeable. But when you start to add a actual black version to it, I think it actually starts to make a lot of sense. So we're just changing this from a green, or you could just change it directly. You could just get rid of this altogether. And I know gradient things don't make sense in the very beginning, but they eventually do. Now you're going to add a very simple inner shadow, and then change it to be white, and then obviously have it increase in its position. And you can also increase the blur, have the position just offset by a little bit, and that also gives it a lot of depth. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to add some noise. So you're just going to go over here to the effects, add some noise over here, change this noise to be white, change the size to be much smaller, change the density if you need it to be more or less dense, and check it out. This actually looks quite nice. You can also have a little bit of a blur going on the shape itself, and you can have the shape blur be uniform or progressive. I think 2 is fine. You don't want it to blur out by a whole lot, but you also want things to be looking very rough, or you can just get rid of it altogether. Both of them are really fine, okay options, and I do think these shapes are just going to make a lot of sense when you actually have a shape at the end of it all. The last way we're going to build this out is actually much more different than anything I've ever talked about. So you're just going to go over here to the bottom and create a simple rectangle. I know, how would even a rectangle go from looking like that to looking like this? I hold on with me for a second, because I have something really interesting for this section today. You're going to have a really simple linear gradient, and it's going to alternate between 3 different colors this time. We're going to get the blue that we started with right here at the top. We're going to get the green, that was the second color that we were using, and also I wanted to bring in our purple because that was the final shape we wanted to incorporate, and I somehow have a heart for remembering things that have happened in the past. We're going to get this right here and have everything just be the perfect gradient of the whole wide world. Once that is done, and this is where things get really interesting, you're going to go ahead and create a very simple ellipse and just create a whole bunch of these, 4 to be exact, and just have them be duplicated and in a very nice looking grid. Make sure the width and height is absolutely the same. And now you might see that this thing here in the center actually looks like what we wanted it to look like. So we're just going to select all of these circles, group them together, and then go ahead and change this to be a not exclude. Wow, am I having more than a couple of circles? I think not. Why is subtract not working? This is so weird. You know what? Let's just flatten this entire thing, and it'll make our whole lives a whole lot easier. When you flattened it, you can get rid of these points, and you can still end up with a really nice looking shape. Where did the shape go? You can add a stroke and a fill, and this fill is now going to function as a guide for us. You can get rid of all of the extra curves and corners, and this can be as big as you want. You can just align this perfectly in the center. And now this can actually function as an actual mask. So we're going to make a mask out of this and create the rectangle, put it inside. And now you can actually move this rectangle around for quite a bit. So if you make the rectangle larger, you can move it around. And the interesting thing that happens is you can create multiple versions, have them all be taken from the same template and have them all look different. So you're going to take this mask group, duplicate it once again. And now I'm just going to move around my rectangle once again. Check it out. This actually is quite nice, but also more importantly, the both of these look very different in terms of the colors and the gradings that we've used, right? And that is how we've created all of these shapes, and it's 90% done at this point. All of the other things that you see are just plain black and white hero section stuff. So let's just assemble it all together because we're so close to getting all of this done. The way we're going to do this is we're going to go over here to the bottom, get a frame, get a MacBook Pro 14, because why not? And now we're just going to get one of these, place them right here. The other one is going to be placed right here. Third one is going to go to the bottom. And now we can make these as small or big as we want to. Rotate any of these anywhere you'd like. Make sure they're just settling in perfectly. Make sure they're even visible to begin with. Wow, let's just change this to be a group, make this guy even smaller. This looks quite nice. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to have a logo. This is the second most important part, and the font family that we're using is again Outfit. Very, very clean, very, very simple open source font. The brand name is going to be Clear Nest, and it is going to use the final shape that we made. So just stick around for my full circle moment. I've been waiting a really long time for it to even happen. You're just going to align it perfectly, place it right here. Make sure to get your final circle, make it very, very small, zoom in and have that be the logo. And you can just have this be a purple to blue or have this be a green to blue. But the point is, we haven't exactly taken the colors of our color palette, the thing that we started with, but we've taken some of the colors and started as a guiding light for our gradients. The one thing I forgot, once again, wow, is our noise, which was most definitely needing to be added. You can change this back and place it, and it obviously gives this so much more depth and structure. Check it out. There is so much more depth to our entire thing now. And you can also have a little bit of noise going on over here as well. You can also have an inner shadow, but I don't think we need that right now. Let's change this to a white. And with that, we have a lot of noise going on. The font that we're using today is surprisingly not Outfit, Your Money. Wow, this is typing in an opposite case. Your Money. Finally working for you. Finally working. I can't type on live streams. I just can't. It's so weird. For you. And we're going to change this font to be instrument serif. You guessed it. It's even though I just said it, it's quite a simple font, not very complicated, but the combination that it gives when you're using instrument serif with Outfit is absolutely insane, and it will never stop blowing my mind how simple and how good it looks. We're using the font size 96 right now. We could increase it up to be 128, and automatically you see even left alignment is working really, really well. You can align it perfectly in the center. This button still does work, and then you're going to get this, copy it, paste it once again, change this font to be Outfit, and then guess what? We're just going to select the whole of this text, copy and paste it, make it even smaller, and the font size is going to be 27, and then that's it. We're going to select the both of these, make sure they're grouped together, aligned in the center, and also the group is aligned in the center of the page. And that's it, ladies and gentlemen. Even though it looks quite simple and it looks quite nice, this is our entire hero section concept. You can obviously expand on it, change the colors. Obviously all of the variations that you work with are going to look slightly different, but at the end of the day, all of these just look so fun and so easy to work with. And all of that happens simply because we're agreeing to a simple color palette, eclatant, and it just gives it the whole entire life that we've been waiting for. The final section that I want to build out today is actually super duper fun because it's very, very short and very, very small, and it's the most reusable thing I've ever made. The font color, the color palette, why can't I say color palettes yet? The color palette is actually called Heavenly Ice Cream, which is quite irrelevant to the way we're building this out, but it's actually so much fun. So when you download the entire color palettes list from this from the free website link in the live chat and description, you're going to find a really, really nice color palette located right around here, and it's going to be called, wow, this whole thing just decided to hang up on me. Wait a moment. This is going to be called Heavenly Ice Cream, and then you're just going to get it, copy it and paste it right here. And of course, in our traditional style of working with things, yes, we are going to be working with a gradient and having a lot of texture and a lot of noise, but that adds to the beauty of what we're building today. I do want to copy and paste it just because I want to admire it always. This is what we've arrived at from this point. We haven't necessarily used this color a lot, but it does come in handy when you're judging for images as well. So the way we're going to do this is we're going to create a very, very simple section. Let's have this be 1200 by 675 pixels. Very, very simple sizing. And we're going to have a very, very simple gradient going on here as well. So you're just going to bring a top to down gradient going on. The first color that we're going to talk about is the purple, of course. And these colors are essentially taken in order of the way they appear right here on this screen. And then you can also have a blue going on at the top, just ever so slightly. You're not using every single color, you're not forcing yourself to, but the colors that you are using just make a lot of sense because they're so relevant. And now we're just going to get all of these be very light in their own versions. So you're just going to have these be very light, and when I say very light, I mean very light. You're just going to make them as light as you possibly can. You can get rid of this purple, and you know what, you can just introduce it right here in the center. It's gets quite confusing, but it does work at the very end. And you can just work with the brightness a little bit. Once that is done, we're going to add an effect. This is going to be texture, because who doesn't need some texture in their lives? Make it have a lot of texture, and then work around with these numbers, see what works best for you. The next thing we're working with is noise. All of our noise is just white in color. It's like not even complicated. And this looks quite nice, and it already starts to look very similar. This is the cool thing with texture and noise, is it just makes anything you're working with similar to the desired result. It's not even very complicated. The final thing that we're building out is this beautiful looking card. Can we just for a moment stop and admire how beautiful it is? Because I think it's incredible. So we're building out this card, which is going to align it perfectly, make it small and in the center, and have it be white. Now remember in the beginning of the video when I said you couldn't actually get this card inside without distorting all of the text and proportions? That is still very relevant. You can't do that. So we're going to export this as an image as a PNG, not a JPG, because JPGs require themselves not to be transparent. And then we're going to press Ctrl+Shift+K, get this frame inside of our screen, get this present right here in the center. And I'm just going to get this guy, get rid of him entirely because we don't need it anymore. Where is our frame? Our frame is inside of our palette. Let's just get this outside. And now, hold on, let me just select this right here, align this perfectly in the center, zoom in, have this be at the top, and then we're going to create another frame that's going to hold this entire thing inside of it. So I'm adding a little bit of a border radius, and then selecting it and just grouping it together. And now we've got for ourselves a really nice container for this entire thing to hold. And then I'm going to also add an effect, a little bit of a drop shadow, which is our good old shadow, which we haven't used in a really long time. I miss you, drop shadow. You're incredible. You will never stop being my favorite. And I'm going to also add a little bit of a blur, because these colors are very dark and have a lot of personality. For anything to be visible on top of them, you have to have a drop shadow, and you have to have it be very dark and very expressive. And then we're going to get an actual image. So we have the place for an image to exist, but we don't really have an image yet. If you have an image downloaded with you, that is incredible, but we're going to actually get our image live from the Unsplash plugin and actually search for the colors that would work really well in this situation. So while that is being done, I'm just going to have this be a really rounded image, just perfectly centered around here. Go over to the bottom, search for a plugin, which is Unsplash, which is an awesome plugin. You can also use Pexels or Pixabay or any of these super awesome stock image plugins. I'm going to search for jellyfish because they are the only animal that is sort of in the blue water and also very pink and very expressive. So jellyfish, fish. And we're going to get any image that seems nice enough to us. I feel like you could just go ahead with this one. And you could make this image cropped, even smaller, even more fitting with the theme that we're working with. I do think I will experiment around for just a bit, just to see what works. So let's just get this one, because I'm very specific with these images and stuff, and I will not stop until I get the perfect image. This is insane. Let's get this image right here. Wow, why am I going ahead and changing these images again and again? I think I want the perfect color palette. Anyways, this is the image that we're working with, and it is so expressive because it takes the colors that have been used in the background and it gets them at the top and makes them really bright and bold, and have them be in the front of things in the current and have them look really nice for everyone. We're going to get jellyfish, type it out in really large fonts, and the font family is once again going to be instrument serif in italics, because it just looks incredible. I don't even have words for how pretty it looks. Font size is going to be 60, but before you skip away, if you are on Windows, you can click on the window key and full stop, and it's going to give you the emojis panel. And I'm searching for bubbles. bubbles, because the bubbles that Windows emoji offers are actually quite nice. If you can't find them directly, you're going to go over here to Iconify, and then you're going to search for bubbles, and you're going to find this really beautiful 3D icon. Zoom this guy down, and this is universal. This doesn't even apply to only Windows. It is absolutely universal. Get these guys down here, place them at the periphery of this card and the outside structure. Have there be a drop shadow, have it show behind transparent areas. Change this to be 0. Change this blur to be much higher. We're going to make this really dark. Check it out, you guys. This actually looks really pretty. It's really simple, and it's not complicated. It's just sitting there, and it uses all of the colors from our color palette, and it just works very well together. And I feel like this is the true moral of the story. If all of the colors that you're using, even elements that you've exported from outside, are using the exact colors that you are wanting, then things are going to work out. The font family that we're using is Outfit, and I'm just going to paste this text and style it together. So we're just going to change this back to a medium width, reduce the font size to a 12. You know what, let's just get this up to a 14, because why not, and reduce the spacing over here. This looks really nice. Have a little bit of line height be present everywhere, and then have this take up as much space as it needs to. You can also increase the font size. I think I would go up to 16. And the last thing we're making today is the final call to action button, the moment we've all been waiting for. Ladies and gentlemen, the cleanest button that you could ever possibly make. And I know you're thinking about something fancy using a lot of color, but it's actually a really simple black and white button. Like, black and white buttons, all-time favorites, have been used from time immemorial. And they will always continue to be my favorites, just because they're so universal and socially acceptable absolutely in every single scenario, no matter where and how you are. This is my ultimate pun for the day. In the card for a jellyfish, the call to action button says, I want to get stung, because yes, we are all idiots trying to get stung by jellyfish, and yes, it is going to be the thing that we mention on these buttons, because I have the kind of sense of humor of a 4-year-old, I believe, and then we're going to add a little bit of a border radius, and this is certainly funny. It is funny to me, if that makes any sense at all. You're going to change the font text color to be white, and you can make this as thick as you need to, just because white really needs to stand out on this background right here. You can have this be really rounded off and have this be present perfectly in the center. Reduce the font size if you need to, and then that is pretty much it. This is it, ladies and gentlemen. We have made one of the prettiest cards in the whole wide world. I'm just going to group this together, and then you can frame it together, and then it's just going to be this one really nice section that holds everything in its side in itself. This card is completely made because we started with the really beautiful color palette, Heavenly Ice Cream. It is so awesome because it just works. It's very relevant. It fits the theme. It is current, and it, most importantly, it takes inspiration. It doesn't really stick to the exact thing that you started with, but it takes a lot of inspiration. We in today's live session, we did a pricing section, a complete hero section concept, and also a really nice looking card. I think this has been one of the most amazing live streams we've ever done, just because we've covered so much. We've also talked about these awesome color palettes, which were honorable mentions, and that you could use entirely on their themes, and you have these really cool emojis and icons that I made that I really can't get over. This has been it for the most awesome color palettes in the whole wide world that are going to get stolen really fast. So you will see them on the internet more and more now. So just go ahead, get them free while they are still available on veerashrivastava.com. Link in the live chat and description. I am so grateful to each and every one of you watching, and I'll see you really soon. I hope it's tomorrow. I might see you tomorrow. Same time, 9 p.m. Indian Standard Time or 3:30 p.m. GMT. Until then, good night, good day, and